Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to my channel. Now today I've got another weekly forex analysis for you guys. So on the screen other pairs we'll be looking at today, but make sure you stay to the end of the video because I will be going in-depth analysis of what's happened during this trading week and potentially what could be happening during the next trading week. So make sure you stay to the end of the video for all of that. But with all that said, guys, let's just get straight into it. First up, we've got Euro USD. Okay, so first up we've got Euro USD. So for this pair, throughout most of the week, we're basically just moving sideways, consolidating until the end of the week, Friday, where we had that bearish momentum come to the markets and saw this nice move to the downside. Now last week, we were expecting to see a move to the downside. However, for most of the week, price was just moving sideways, not much clarity. And then we saw that follow through towards the end of the week. So for this week, I'm expecting to see more bearish momentum come to the markets. We've already seen a big push down, so naturally I'm expecting to see some retracement. However, because of that momentum, we could see the market just continue to the downside as the week opens. But personally, I'll be looking for some retracement, at least halfway, potentially back to this area here, where we've got that support, now term resistance, and then we'll be looking for some more continuation to the downside. So around the 1.21 600 area would be a really nice area to look for sells and anticipate more downside continuation. As for targets for Euro USD, again last week I was expecting price to come back down to this level, that 1.20600. You can see we haven't quite come there yet. Price is kind of probably around 35 pips away, so not too far off. So want to see some retracement, get better risk to reward, and then look to capitalize on that move. And if we break past that, second area of interest will be this area down here, which is around 1.2 on the dot pretty much. So only looking for sales this week for Euro USD. If we do see the movement to the upside, going to be treating as retracement unless we start breaking through this trend line here in the market, which is giving us these lower highs. If we start breaking through that, creating some higher highs, then yeah, I'll probably change my bias. But as of right now, we're very bearish here for Euro USD. We broke past our strong daily barrier around 1.21800, and now we're firmly below that daily close on Friday. So for next week, looking for a bit of retracement. Want to see if we can get back up to here, but I'm aware that it might only move halfway and then fall over. And then yeah, targets will be 1.20600, and then if you break past that, 1.2 on the dot. Next, we're going to take a look at USD JPY. Okay, so next we've got USD JPY. So for this pair, not very much happened this week. As you can see, the price action here is pretty much just sideways. This week I was expecting to see some retracement, but we didn't really get that. We mainly just got consolidation. Thought we could see a bit of retracement higher up and then look for a move down. However, this week, as you can see, as I draw a box around price action, we haven't really gone anywhere. But for USD JPY, I'm actually favoring a move to the upside now. Price action is trying to move lower, however, it's having a really hard time to do that. And I've also noticed we've got this prior resistance now turned support that the market is now holding as support. As you can see, there's resistance here, a bit of a false break there, and now we're holding it as support. And as you can see, we do in fact have an uptrend here in the market. Price is giving us higher highs, higher lows. So those are highs. And as you can see, potentially a higher low here as well. So I'm looking for price action to continue that and see another swing to the upside. And naturally the target will be this high all the way up there. So bias is to the upside for USD JPY for next week. As for areas of interest, I want to see price retrace again for me one more time back down to this area, and then we'll be targeting this 4-hourly high over here, which is around 110,300. That'll be the first target, and the second target will be that daily target up there around the 110,800 area. But only looking for buys this week for USD JPY. If you do go and break this barrier and start holding as resistance, then yeah, we'll flip my bias to bearish and look for selling opportunities. But as of now, we're holding under this, we're holding on top of this, in fact, support really well. We're moving sideways, which is showing that we're struggling to break through it. So I'm naturally expecting that bearish momentum, as you can see here, to shift to bullish and see a nice push in the opposite direction. So targeting that 110,300 area as first target if we can get a bounce of this, and then second target will be the 110,800 up there. And next we've got USD CAD. Okay, so now we've got USD CAD. So for this pair this week, we've seen some bullish momentum come to the markets. As you can see on the Friday, nice strong close up there. And even though USD CAD for the past few months now has been very bearish, and on the weekly time frame and the monthly time frame, you can see that as well. We've been very, very bearish. I do think potentially USD CAD could be finding a bit of a bottom, or at least an area where we do find support for a bigger move to the upside. Maybe price might fall back down again, but I think we could be seeing some bullish momentum come into the markets here for USD CAD. Recently, we've been struggling moving to the downside, and then we had this big push down, and now I think we're finding a bottom to that. As you can see, we're getting this bowl shape. Price is making lower lows down the daily, and now it's starting to make higher lows. So if that price action keeps up into next week, I think we could be seeing some momentum coming to the upside, and targets would be this area here. Big strong move to the downside will be acting as resistance and supply there as well, and obviously this support area there as well, which we now term resistance. So I'm looking for buys now for USD CAD, even though we do have quite a bearish market. But you can see on the Aodu, the momentum is shifting to the bullish side of things. So I will be looking for buying opportunities this week. We do obviously have that previous resistance there when we're stuck in the range, which is now going to be acting as support. So naturally expecting price to bounce off this and continue to the upside. So first area of interest will be here around the 1.21400, but if you break through that, then I'm expecting price to come back down into this support, make another higher low. Then again, we'll be looking for buying opportunities around here, and again, first targets will be this daily area of supply around 1.22800. And if you break that much further, but again, I don't think price will do that within 1 week, but anything can happen in these markets. So yeah, next week looking for buying opportunities for USD CAD. Looks like we're breaking out this range finally, giving us some higher lows, waiting for price to retrace, find another higher low, and then take it from there. And two areas of interest for next week will be this previous resistance turn support around 1.21400, and then this support here around 1.20800. Up next is Euro GBP. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but if you are enjoying the content and you're finding it useful, make sure you go hit the subscribe button down below, and also make sure you drop a like as well. It really does help the channel out. But anyway, back to the video. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to Euro GBP. So for this pair, as you can see, the recent weeks we haven't really gone anywhere. Price is just moving sideways. I still believe Euro GBP is still trying to move down, and we will see price back at this support here in the next recent weeks, because we tried to turn bullish with this big move to the upside. Price was trying to create some higher lows. However, it's failing to do so, and I think all this consolidation is just building up for another move lower back down to the support, and probably even some lower lows. So taking that information down to the 4H, you can see this week we saw a bit of retracement, and we saw another lower high formation, double top there, and a push back down to this support. So I'm expecting Euro GBP to create some new lows coming into next week. Want to see a bit of retracement first to give a nice opportunity, because don't really want to sell into support. And then if you can get halfway, it'd be brilliant if you can get back to that resistance, maybe get a triple top, but halfway find some levels so you can get some lower time frame confirmations, and then take that lower back into that support. Then if you can break through that, we'll be targeting 0.85500 and then 0.85, which is the daily kind of end target for Euro GBP. But bias is to the downside for next week for Euro GBP, only for selling opportunities. If you do see some upside momentum, just gonna treat that as retracement, and then look to sell it when we get some nice confirmation. So bias is to the downside for next week for Euro GBP. Waiting for a bit of retracement. First target is 0.85700, and if you can get a break of that, we'll be targeting 0.85500. Okay, so up next we've got AUD USD. Okay, so next we've got AUD USD. So for this pair, as you can see, price is still kind of stuck in this area of consolidation. However, we are getting some clarity now for direction for AUD USD. You can see the market is slowly trending bearish here, giving us these lower highs in the market. Slight false break up there on Friday. However, we did see that continuation come to the downside. Saw a lot of USD strength come into the market. So as a result, AUD USD fell. So I'm thinking we're going to see some more continuation of that bearish momentum that we saw at the end of this week, and see that coming into next week. So for next week, we'll be looking for some retracement to start off after this big push down. Again, we do have support here, which now will be term resistance, so you can get a nice reaction from there and take this lower. Again, first target will be this area here in the market, that previous low before NFP took us higher, and we'll be targeting 0.76, which is a very key area of support and demand. Big move to the upside from this area. I think we're going to come back down and revisit it. So this will be the first target, that recent low, and if you create some new lows, I think it would happen at around 0.76. So that's the target for AUD for next week. So if you do see some bullish momentum, again, ready to sell it as soon as we get those confirmations, because I think it's just going to be retraced now for AUD, and we're going to see the bearishness coming to the markets again next week. First target is 0.76500, then 0.76. The only way I'll change my bias and look for buys if we see the market push up and actually break through this trend line and start giving us some higher highs, then I'll look for buys. But right now, only looking for sells for next week for AUD/USD. From this area, take it back down to 0.76500, and then if we can get a break, create some new lows around 0.76 will be great as well. Now let's take a look at NZD CAD. Okay, so next up we've got NZD CAD. So for NZD CAD, as you can see, we did roll over again this week. Was looking to see if we can get a bit more bullish momentum come into the markets. We have this really key level of support and resistance here. I'll see if we can break through that and really see some more momentum come into the markets for the bullish side of things. However, we didn't. We rejected that and started falling to the downside again. So for next week, I'm expecting to see more of that happen again, back into this support here and actually potentially some new lows. So I want to see if we can get a bit of retracement come into the markets first and wait for a selling opportunity, and then first target will be back at this support here, which is around there 0.86400 area. Then a break of that I think will take us to 0.86 on the dot. So biases to the downside for next week for NZD CAD. Again, a great place to look for selling opportunities is this recent high here. Potentially get a nice double top and then see the market fall to the downside again. And again, first target is this support here, and a break of that I reckon we can hit 0.86 on the dot. So yeah, more bearishness to come this week, I think, and I'm only looking for selling opportunities unless we break above this key daily area. Now I think I'll change my bias to buys again and see if we can take that higher, but as of now the market is looking very, very bearish. I'm just going to see if we can take more advantage of that. So targets will be this low here, and then we'll be looking at 0.86 on the dot. Next up we've got GBP NZD. Okay, so next we've got GBP NZD, and as you can see, if I jump to the 4 hour, we saw more bullish momentum come to the markets this week. And I did say if the market does hold on to this area, look for those buying opportunities, because there's a good chance price will continue to the upside and give us some new highs. As you can see, we did wick into around the 1.98500 area. So price right now for GBP is looking very, very bullish. We're coming to a key level of daily resistance, and as you can see, it does have a lot of value behind it. Big moves to the downside. However, we are making higher lows coming into this level, which is something to take notice of, because it does show that the bulls are still pushing on, and we still potentially can see a break of this area. As you can see, we push down, create this higher low, push down, create this higher low. I do expect to see some reaction again, but as long as we maintain structure so we don't go and break through this, create a lower low, and potentially will turn bearish. But as long as we keep that up, so price comes back down again, maybe back down into that same support, but gives us another high low formation, I think we can see a break of this level 1.98 and potentially see a push into 1.99. So GBP, I think only looking for buying opportunities unless we can see a break of this trend line here. If you do see a break of this trend line, then potentially we are turning bearish, and that key daily level is holding. But I think we'll probably see a nice push to the downside in for some retracement, maybe a test of that trend line, get a third test. But I do think more upside next week for GBP, and if you get a break of that and you do hold our support, again, that could be a nice place to look to go along. But next week, only looking for buys for GBP, but as you can see, we're in a key level, so naturally we want to see retracement first, give us a nice high low formation, maybe out that trend line or that support, and we'll look to buy back up again, targeting that recent high around 1.98, and a break of that key level on the daily will take us to 1.99. Next, we're going to move on to CAD JPY. Okay, so next up we've got CAD JPY, which did roll over to the downside this week. For the majority of the week we were moving sideways, and I did say wait for a bit of retracement and then we could look to short the market. However, we didn't really get much of that. The market was just moving sideways and then just fell to the downside there on Friday. I was looking for a bit more retracement back to this previous high and then to short it, but that opportunity didn't really come through and the market just fell to the downside anyway. So for next week, again, waiting for some retracement. Again, still waiting to see if we can get to this area here, price support around the 90 area, which did give us this big move to the upside, which I do think the market is likely to come and test. But again, want to see retracement first. Again, two areas we'll be looking at: this price support here and also this resistance here as well. So if you can get retracement into this area, we'll look to take it lower, or potentially if it breaks past and test that resistance again, which again is a nice place to look to go short, we'll look to see if you can go and see price rollover and see if you can get to 90 on the dot. Potentially could break through it, but again, don't want to be too overconfident with that move because we still do have a bullish market on the higher time frames. even though the 4 hour is moving sideways. And you can see why we're having trouble moving higher, because if I go to the weekly, we are testing this double top area, 1 2 big collapse to the downside, and now we're back at that same area again. And as you can see on the weekly, we did get a nice bearish close there, so we are going to expect to see some type of reaction from this level. It does have a lot of weight behind it, so that's why looking for sells is not such a bad idea for CAD JPY. And you can also see we're getting some nice lower highs and lower lows on the 4 hour. So for next week, looking for some selling opportunities. Again, first want to see some retracement. Again, first target will be this area 9300, so you can get some retracement off that and look to capitalize off and move back to 90, back to this support. And then if you break through that, we'll see you can get some nice opportunities from this resistance, and again targeting that 90 area. Up next is GBP USD. Okay, so next up we've got GBP USD. So for this pair, as you can see, we've just been moving sideways for the past few days now, a few weeks even, and the market hasn't really gone anywhere. We're still stuck at that 1.42 area. However, this week I did expect to see the market roll over to the downside and give us a test of this 1.40400 area. However, as you can see, we did have a tough time doing that, and the market is still moving sideways. But I do still hold that bias into this week. I do expect to see us fall to the downside and see if we can get a test of this support. As you can see, we've got the lows of the range around this area here and the highs of the range around this area here. However, this week we didn't actually get to the highs of the range, and we actually formed the resistance around 3/4 of the way up, and we struggled to break through that. So I do think that that area will stay intact this week. So if you do see some retracement, we'll be looking to take advantage of that move from that area back down into this support. And if you do get a break, we'll be holding on to 1.40400, but I am aware that we might only come up halfway and then fall over. So want to be on my toes a little bit, because I do think that that drop to the downside is coming. You can see we are making lower lows here. Got that low, lower low, lower low, and again another lower low this week. So I'm expecting to see another lower low at this 1.40400 area. So only looking for sales this week unless we get back above this resistance and start holding above here in that little range between that resistance and this now support. Then I might change my bias or just stay at the market for GBUSD altogether. But for next week, looking for a bit of retracement. Brilliant if we get here, but halfway still looking for some nice setups and some nice confirmations. And again, targeting this support around 1.41 113 kind of area, and then if you can break through that into 1.40400. So bias to the downside for next week, looking for some more continuation and actually a breakout of this range. And next we're going to see what's happening with GBP CAD. Right, so now we've got GBP CAD. So for this pair, again, we just have the same as last week pretty much. Price is still moving sideways and it's still very difficult to trade. So GBP CAD, I will not be trading it this week. Again, this pair is very hard to trade. You can see it's pretty much all over the place, a lot of wicks around there as well. So yeah, I will not be having this pair on my watch list, but for analyst reasons, you can see we potentially could be having a breakout maybe of that resistance, so that maybe could open opportunity for a break and retest of that range. But again, for me, I will be staying out of the market. The only setup that might interest me, if we have a nice big false breakout and we see the market come right back underneath, then that again will clear a lot of people and a lot of orders out, and then potentially you could see some nice momentum come to the downside back into this lower range and maybe even have a breakout finally, because all of this is just all build up for a big move to the upside or a big move to the downside. Again, we don't know which way price will move, but we know it's just building up for a big move somewhere. And if you do have a break and retest, it could be to the upside, but again, I'm not really too keen on that, just because I think it could be a false breakout and get people on the wrong side of the market. But if we do see a nice false breakout happen, so a big push up and the market gets underneath, then I will take advantage of that move back down. But if that doesn't happen, I will be staying at the market for GB CAD. But yeah, I think it's just going to be a break and retest this week and potentially more upside, or we might see another swing to the downside. But again, GB CAD very hard pair to trade and predict at this moment in time. So for next week, I'm expecting to see more of the same pretty much for the past couple of weeks now. Potentially a swing to the downside, but if you get a break, a retest and a continuation. But again, if you do see that massive false breakout happen, I do think the selling opportunities would be really good, just because again, a lot of people will be selling up here and we could just take them all out and then see them move to the downside. So that would be the only opportunity I will have my eye on. But if that doesn't happen, I will just stay out in the markets for GBP CAD and just expect the same to happen from last week into this week as well. Okay, up next we've got GBP JPY. Okay, so next up we've got pound JPY, which this week, as you can see, more bearish retracement happening this week, which was expected. I did say the market is likely to roll over again this week. We've got this target around the 154 area, which we haven't tested quite yet. We did come close, however, we did push on. I still think we can come and get a test of that area. So for next week, looking for a bit of retracement first, and then see if you can get price to roll over, create another lower high. We also do have this trend line here as well. If I just connected all these lower highs, we'll like to see a test that trend line and then see if you can get roll over. However, if prices break through this trend line, create some new highs, we'll change my bias to bullish again and just see a continuation of the overall bullish trend on the higher time frames, and again targeting the recent high up here around 156 on the dot. But right now the market is still bearish, still making lower lows and lower highs, and that trend line is still intact. So waiting for a bit of retracement. Don't want to take the sell right now after that big push. Want to see a bit more retracement first, and see if you can get a nice opportunity back down to 154 or at least this recent low which formed last week, well this week. So looking for a push to the downside, targeting that 154 area. A break of it will take us probably quite lower, but again, not going to be too aggressive with these sells. On the break of that, I will look to see if I can change my bias and target 156, but my bias is the downside, targeting 154. And up next, we're going to take a look at gold. Okay, so for gold this week, as you can see, we did roll it over to the downside, which was expected. We did see that drop last week. I was saying that probably price will roll over again, since we did see this break of structure, give us some nice lower highs in the market, which it did this week. And as you can see, we did fall to the downside, targeting this area of 1872, and the next area will be 1860. So I am seeing more downside this week for gold. Want to see a bit of retracement, then we'll be targeting 1860 area. And as you can see, if I do jump to the daily chart, 1860 is a very key level here on the daily. If I just take that across, as you can see, big moves to the upside from this area, hitting that 1950 mark, and I think we can hit that 1950 mark as long as price stays above this 1860 area. If it breaks through it, then I think price has a good chance of moving to 1830. But for now, again, it's going to stay reactive and see if price can break it or not. But for next week, looking for sells again, only looking for sells as long as price does not take out this recent high here. If it takes that out, probably be turning bullish again, and targets will be back up at 1950. But right now, looking for sells. Great to see the market come back and test that area. Great place to look to sell from, but there's a good chance that will probably only move halfway and then fall over after seeing that strong bearish momentum come into the market on Friday there. So for next week, looking for sells, targeting 1860, and a break of that will take us to 1830 area. But for now, again, that's a little bit aggressive. That probably may take a week or two to get there. So for next week, focusing on that 1860 area, but I want to see a bit of retracement first, maybe even back to 1900 on the dot. But targets will be at 1860 as long as that level stays intact. And last but not least, we've got Bitcoin. So as you can see for this pair, we are still rolling over to the downside. I did say that the market still does have that bearish structure, which is still intact, so we can expect to see that continue into this week. As you can see, we were trading to the upside slightly, but the market was still making these significant lower highs, and we did roll over and see a push to the downside. We almost have reached that 30,000 mark, which I still think we can hit before maybe seeing some more upside and momentum come to the markets. As you can see, it looks like potentially we formed another lower high. So I think as long as the market does respect this area, it might come and tap this area here, but as long as it does respect that area, I do see more downside for Bitcoin back to create some new lows around maybe 30,000 mark. And then from there, potentially, if we can hold on to this area, we'll see a bigger move to the upside. But right now, you can see we are making those lower highs and also making those lower lows. So unless we say a change of that structure, we can just expect to see more of that continue into the following week. So for next week, it'd be nice to see a bit of retracement back into this area around 38,000, then look to short it back down into this support, and if you can break it, probably into this daily support around the 30,000 mark. So bias is to the downside unless we see a break of structure, price creates some higher highs, then yes, we can look to see if you can buy it. But right now, only sells right now for Bitcoin, and potentially buys if we do get hit and hold. But for now, expecting to see another rollover, and a great place to look to short is this 38,000 mark, back down to 30,000. So that's what potentially you could be looking for next week for Bitcoin. Okay, so that is the end of the video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed that and found that useful. Like always, guys, if you have any questions, agree or disagree with my analysis, just let me know, drop a comment down below. I'll make sure I'll get back to you guys. If you haven't already, subscribe and drop a like as well. It really does help the channel out. But thanks a lot for watching, guys, and until the next one, I will see you guys later.